Hey, what's up guys? It's Oakley and we're going to be doing a 2 versus 2 battle, and this is going to be somewhat competitive, not super competitive in the sense it's a tournament, but it has some good players. So I'm going to be on the right, and I'm going to be obviously fielding Swaby, and Indie Pride is going to be securing my left, also playing as Swaby, and then facing against me on my side is going to be Achilles fielding Tillis, and then over here we have a guy from the VOC clan. I've never played with him before, Kelthry, playing as Rome, but he does play pretty well. Anyways, you can see the builds. I'm just going to show my build and my main opponent build. This is going to be Achilles as Tillis. And so you can see the construction of our builds. Let's go over my deployment first. So I have obviously 3 of these Germanic Slingers in front, 3 of these Spear Levies, and then I have 4 of these Round Shield Swordsmen all back there. And then I have kind of my Berserker Hexbearer. These guys are supposed to be the fear-instilling troops. They're going to be in the center. And what I've decided to do is actually put 3 of my Swordmasters over on the left side. And then I have Germanic Scout Riders on either flank, and then Noble Riders there. So obviously that's the build that you can see me sporting. And like you guys know, I don't like to play in the typical fashion. I know a lot of people who play with this like to have it all in a big long line with fodder troops in the front. I'm not quite going to do that. My thinking is I want to help reinforce the fight against the Romans, because I am more scared of the Romans, to be honest. And so that's why I have these 3 Swordmasters here. I'm going to position them in the forest. It's a good place to allow them to get cover from enemy fire. It also threatens the Roman flank and can hopefully force them back, because I did see there was this big Hastati line. This is actually pretty cool coming out of Kelthry. He's going for a somewhat historical triplex Achaeus, but obviously a mix of pre and post Marian. So Hastati in the front, 5 of these, very good cost-effective units. All of them have javelins, and they're relatively sturdy if you can back them up. So he does back them up with legionnaires, and then also Evocati cohorts in the back, and then a pretty big number of these Equites, and they're going to be chasing off the Germanic Scout Riders over on this flank. Put this on slow motion as these guys are chasing off Indie Pride's Germanic Scout Riders, and then he even has some auxiliary Numidians in the back. Indie Pride has more of these Swordmasters than I do, and he also has more of these Berserkers and Hexbearers, and even one more of these Spear Levies. So yeah, here's 2 of these Berserkers. So the advantage I have is probably, I think, just more heavy cavalry. He just has 2 of these Germanic Scout Riders, whereas I have more cavalry overall. I have 2 Noble Riders pushing the flank, and then 2 of these Germanic Scout Riders. And I think having that cavalry advantage is definitely something you'll need, especially for late game hammer and anvils. And I'm really actually digging the skirmisher cav fights. You get a lot of these back and forth. We missed a little bit of the micro, but that's going on. And I've been playing with a lot of these sort of scout skirmisher light cav troops, and they're very, very fun. You move around in packs, you duck, dive, dip, dodge, and dive. I guess I'm trying to remember that dodgeball reference. But yeah, these guys are going to be highly mobile, and it's really fun, especially when you have 2 skilled players. It's a lot of positioning, a lot of trying to force your opponent into the wrong place. And so this is kind of what's going on in this position. He has 3 of these guys to my 2, but I do have the support of some Germanic Slingers who can help me get some shots off, so they're going to be lining up for just that. And then obviously you want to bring some Spear Levies as fodder unit backups. Now the main force is going to be advancing in kind of similar to the Roman line, triplex Achaeus with Levy Freeman backing up a long line of these tribal warriors, and then more elite Oathsworn in the back, Gallo-Thracians, stuff like that, and Thracian warriors. So pretty high attack units. And so I'm trying to contest this flank, and you can see it's kind of going to draw in my opponent, but in his thin lines. This is why I like to form in these kind of weird positions, because it kind of confounds players who are in these big long lines. They expect me to meet that big long line, but imagine he were to go forward in this big line. Well, I'm going to outright destroy him on this flank, because I have 3 Swordmasters. On this flank I have more cavalry, more skirmishers, and I'm pretty mobile, so I could fall back and sweep around the flanks. And then he's left with facing my center. My center can just pull back and I'll win the flanks, and then kind of collapse on the center. So almost like a Hannibal type strategy. So on this front, the Romans are going to slowly advance, catch their breath, continue to mass troops on the flanks. Roman cavalry has a lot of forces, so that's why we have 2 Spear Levies. And then we're going to try and pick apart the Hastati, but these guys have huge armor, so it's going to be hard to get through that. Here's going to be some of the struggle going on this side of the battlefield. This is why I did bring some of these Spear Levies, was to get into this fight. And they're not really going to catch up with these cavalry, but it's enough to force them back, give my Slingers cover to shoot, and also allow my Germanic Riders to scoot around the side. Meanwhile, here comes the main assault of these Levy Freemen. So the main purpose of this Levy Freeman that you'll be seeing a lot of competitive players do is to obviously absorb enemy volleys, break up charges, and all out basically just, be what fodder units are, soak up assaults and all that. So the best way you have to deal with these guys is either do a similar tactic. So if you're going to engage Levy Freeman, do it with their own Spear Levies, exchange similar troops, or, you know, don't fall for the bait. Pull back and see if you can have like a solid front on this side. So by pulling back my center and having some light troops here and then positioning myself on the flank to get some shots on these guys, I was able to ward this away. Heavy cavalry presence on this flank threatens this front, and that basically halts his main assault. And you can see he can't push up because I have these sword masters in this dense forest, or pretty heavily reinforced force, and so he's forced to fall back. That's to my advantage because I'm the only one with slingers, and so I can start picking his guys from a distance. I'm keeping this main assault back, and it's also buying time for us to maybe dance a little bit with the Romans, but we're not making much progress, and so that's why I had, like I said, had to secure this position in order to threaten the Roman flank. Otherwise we would be continually be pushed. You can see how the opponents basically have no ranged units among them besides some of their skirmisher cav, and so they were going to rush us, and that's why I had to secure this position, threaten both of their collective flanks, and that keeps these rush builds from moving forward, allows our builds to do what they're supposed to do, which is kind of skirmish and tango. So over here I'm starting, you know, I keep noble riders and what is this? Oh no, that's both of my noble riders are actually back here. I got confused by the slinger. So yeah, 2 slingers here to start pinging some of his tribal warriors. And the spear levy, he's going to absorb a lot of fire from these guys, waste their ammo, and then also just chase these guys into a position where I can close on them. 2 of my guys with the spear unit should actually defeat those guys because I have my own spears. And you can see I'm forcing them out of position, and that's going to not only expose these guys to slinger fire, but also potential strikes from my noble riders into tribal warriors and really collapse on these pretty solid troops, and that'll expose this line to a counterattack. But I am kind of feeling the pressure, so I'm going to be falling back. Let's put this on play, and the Romans are going to be doing a concerted effort to push forward as well. However, on this side, we're going to be pushing up to oppose that flank and kind of try and threaten it. I'm getting drawn out a little bit out of position. I don't want to get pulled away from the battlefield, and this is where I'm going to seize on my opportunity. You can see how these guys are going to be being a sort of a bulwark against these guys charging into my formation. I'm going to move forward with all these guys, threaten this position, and I'm not really intending to engage with them. I want to draw forces into this position and allow my slingers to get more shots on his guys, shoot them in the back. He gets a nice volley with those spear levy, but I'm going to get a counter charge on them, which will be to my advantage, and then I can turn around my slingers and do more damage. Basically, Achilles is going to realize the danger of this position, and he's going to try and reinforce, but I'm going to be able to threaten that just with scout riders and these guys coming back into this position, and I'm also getting some additional shots with these guys on some of his units. But yeah, you can see the skirmishing on our part is really, really intense. I mean, he still has 60 out of 60 men. Full unit there. So we've been skirmishing this whole battle, and I only have 2 losses basically on that unit. So that's the amount of skirmishing you'll see. And like I said, here is this big position. So I intercept the levy freeman with my own spear levies. That's to my advantage. And then take a look at this. I'm going to be able to get a lot of nice volleys on these guys. Yes, he's making me waste my spears, but because I'm continuously spamming attack orders on this unit, I'm going to catch them, force them to turn around, devastate them. Achilles is going to do the smart move of not pursuing this assault. It looks like he's going to, but given the fact that we have, look, hex bears and berserkers threatening this front, he's actually going to do the smart move and pull back. And so, yep, like I said, I pull back this. Actually, let's put this on pause so I can explain this. So like I said, when you're going to face these opponents who have triple lines moving forward, hold one position strong, hold the flank strong, and then look at this. He's forced to, I just pull back my center. He can't crack that flank. He can't crack this flank. And though he could have committed to the center, and I would have had enveloping shots on him. And so what he does is a smart move to pull back. But in doing so, you know, he's lost this Levy Freeman unit, and I'm still going to have mine. So that's a win for me. And then I've also been able to engage his Levy Freeman here with the support of my own Spear Levy. That's going to be a win for me. And then also on this front, you know, we're continuing to keep up that stalemate. So it should be a net win for me. And over on this side, we're still avoiding battle. So that's going to be to our advantage. Like I said, we want to make the most out of our skirmishing. And over here, I'm going to just allocate some units. I don't want to have him engage on some of my more expensive troops. And so again, look at this. I get him to retreat in the face of my guys. I broke that unit. He didn't want to get flanked, and so he's going to fall back. I just send one unit to chase after him, kill a whole boatload of them, and don't commit anything more than that. These guys are more than happy to collapse on this force, waste their charge and their shots on him, and then I'll do a retributionary attack with all these guys. And so that's how you should best deal with this. I did have an opportunistic strike with these noble riders. I was going to try and chase after these guys just to force him back. These Thracian warriors I knew didn't have javelins, so I knew I could get my guys actually pretty close. And so I'm trying to get some point blank shots against them, and I'm going to pull back. I'm pressing the advantage with my noble riders on this front. Going to pull back these guys here just at the last moment. And I'm going to chase and exploit this gap. put this on pause. The reason I'm chasing these guys is because now, look at this, I've isolated this one group of tribal warriors. I can chase these guys off with spears. Spears can also come back to intercept this, and then I can come with these noble riders and smash these Thracian warriors. That's why I'm also pulling these noble riders. I want to destroy isolated groups. And over here, he has nothing to really pursue me. He can pursue me with cavalry, and then I'll just bring in these noble riders into this position, and all of his infantry are going to be tied up with my levy freemen. Over here, his main advance is thwarted, and same with this. So I hope you guys don't mind me breaking down kind of what's going on. So I realized the danger to my forces here, and that's why I have these guys pulled back. And now I'm going to be landing a pretty nice charge against these tribal warriors, flatten a bunch of them, and then engage with spear levies, so really breaking their charge. You can see how many of them are laying on the ground. They're going to get back up, but then they're going to meet spear levies, and they get a nice double strike from noble riders on Thracian warriors, and you can see them basically flatlining right there. I pull back some support cav Scout riders, and they're going to be here to secure this position again. Take a look at this. I'm also keeping in mind that I need some reserve forces, pulling them back strategically. I knew these guys were a threat. Over here, I'm not too threatened by these guys. I'm just more concerned with destroying those Thracian warriors. And over in this position, I've committed another round shield swordman just to tie up more of these forces. His tribal warriors might win, but I get a nice charge against them, and these levy freemen are going to be going down. And then I have some of my own position guys going around the flank. And then now, look at this. I have the ability to swing these sword masters over here and hit the Romans. Over on this flank, the cavalry force has been kind of not been up to much. I mean, the Romans can push forward, but because we have the red line here, and because we have 2 spear levies that we can throw on the side, they're going to be enough to catch the Roman cav, and then we can pepper them with Germanic scout riders. On this side, we have berserkers, hex bears, and swordmasters tied up with these Roman forces. Evocati are in a support role. That's good. They're going to get all their javelin fire probably against these berserkers. Now, the threat of that is Roman cavalry could scoot around here, land some rear strikes. That's why I'm guessing Indy position himself in the force. It'll slow down cavalry. And then take a look at this. He has spear levies in support who could countercharge those cavalry. So very smart plays. Over here, we're engaging the main Hestalia line with swordmasters. We will break that. And then look at this. All of these concentrated fire from slingers, targeting the next rank up of legionnaires, and then swordmasters against legionnaires that may be up to us, but we're getting flanking strikes with berserkers, and I'm going to reinforce that. So all around, that is how the battle is going down. Back to this position, I destroy the Thracian warriors, I repel this assault on my slingers, I continue to get shots off, and then now I'm going to piecemeal reinforce more and more guys into this this mess. More of his guys in the front line are going to be collapsing. I'm going to commit more of these round shield swordsmen into the rest of his Gallo Thracians. Those guys are better than my guys, so I just want to have them engaged in the fight, and then bring in my round shield swordsmen and other guys who can finish that up, get some flanking shots. And here he's going to attack with Thracian warriors. That's going to destroy my spear levy, but that's okay. I'm going to have these guys to safeguard that flank, and more importantly, help turn the tide there. Now, over in this position, he is going to be pushing more tribal warriors on this front. That's going to be a problem for me. He's going to start to overbalance this flank, and so even though I was able to pick off some nice kills on infantry and spear levy here and there, I'm going to have to pull back out of this position because he's, look at this, shifting his entire army to deal with that. That does give me a little bit of an advantage here, which I'm going to be taking advantage of. And now he's going to be moving back some of these guys, Oathsworn, tribal warriors, into this mix. And I was able to clean up the spear levy, and then I'm going to pursue into these guys, but they don't have great armor, so now get berserkers into the mix. I figure this is going to be actually a lot of infantry in the mix, so this is a good time, I thought, to commit my berserkers. I'm not very used to playing a Swaby, but I figured this would be a good place in the center where these guys are already committed, and they have even some buffer units who will block javelins, keep the berserkers alive, and then even some hex bears to pop abilities here. I probably popped that preemptively, but I wanted to go micro Elser, so I popped all that, and I anticipated the charge of the berserkers, the charge of these guys, all that to maybe break the center. And then over in this position, I'm getting chased away, so I have to retreat with all my cavalry. And take a look at what's going to develop. Achilles is doing a very, very good move. Not only is he chasing away the entirety of my force, but he's peeled off some of the guys that he was going to commit to that front. And so he's chasing away my guys with not that many forces. And take a look at what he's done very, very strategically. This is something I didn't notice right away, but take a look at what he's done. Let's take a look. I hope you guys don't mind us analyzing this. Look at this. I've committed to this front. I can threaten his flank with these swordmasters and then slingers, so I may take this battle. So what he has to do is he has to find a way to break me. The best way to break engaged infantry is to have a cavalry strike. So how is he going to do that? Well, he's going to push my forces into the corner, And then look at this, he's opening up a nice gap to bring back these raiding horsemen through my lines and strike at the rear. My own cavalry are pushed over to this side, and so it's going to take a lot longer for me to counteract and deal with that, and that'll allow him to even up that fight. So very, very smart positioning and maneuvering of my forces, and you'll see that move from him taking place real soon, especially some of these raiding horsemen. Yep, look at that, they're going to exploit that gap, continue to chase my guys. I have no infantry left on this position to effectively hold back his levy freeman. If I did have guys, I could commit that, hold that up, and move my cavalry back in this position. So I realized I have to break through these infantry or else face the consequences. So what I'm going to do is have Javcav basically in the front to screen this force, pull back my noble riders. I want to flatten this, guys. I'm going to take advantage actually of the natural terrain. I know that if he's going to throw javelins, they're going to be wasted on this hill. So I want to at least get some kills out of that. But here, look at this. He's be crashing through that front. He's actually starting to break through some round shield swordsmen. These guys starting to falter. So this is actually not very well reinforced. I mean, I have berserkers who are going to start getting some kills. We're going to actually pop this up, see how many kills they're getting. 26. It's going to start raking up. And in prolonged melee, this would be good, but I have nothing besides these exhausted round shield swordsmen who have 105 kills. But with rear strikes on these guys, they're going to take a lot of damage. And so that is a very, very brilliant move on Achilles. I'm going to have Swordmasters to come reinforce against Thracian warriors who've taken a beating from my Germanic slingers, but he has extra troops to plug that gap, so very, very troublesome for me. I did, however, commit some of my own Swordmasters on this front. I'm going to help break the Romans. Let's look at what's going on the Roman front. Like I said over here, the cavalry could not scoot behind the Swordmaster force because of the Levy Freeman. It looks like those Levy Freemen actually pushed on the side, chased off the Roman cav, and the Romans have been pulled into this fight, so that will kind of be a grinding fight, but we should take that. The center has now been ours, and now it's going to be up to us to clean up the remainder of these forces and then turn and deal with what's going on over here. Like I said, I kind of didn't have enough infantry to back up this position, so I brought back some of my noble riders to kind of clean up raiding horsemen in the rear. I had to sacrifice both of my slingers. He just had too many guys to catch up with me. I landed a really nice strike against these tribal warriors, and I'm going to have some Germanic scout riders to help clean that up, and then I have some more of my Germanic scout riders who are pulling back, so I'm going to do what Achilles did to me, pull these guys over here, and then also once my noble riders are free, swing them back and land strikes here. But the cavalry in the rear are landing some devastating shots on me, and even though there's just 42 of them, they're starting to turn the tide against me, so this is going to be very problematic. So again, a very good move, and he's going to deploy some more tribal warriors and Levy Freemen to try and clean up the remainder of my forces caught over here. Some of the advantage I do have is these guys are now going to be away from the main fight, so I can pull some of my, let's put this on play, some of my cavalry out of this fight. Because my slingers are no longer here, I'm like, oh, I don't actually have to commit to this fight anymore, so I'm going to go ahead and pull back. I mean, yes, finish off these tribal warriors, get a pretty good strike on them, but pull back with all my cavalry and just evacuate this, and I'm going to leave a lot of infantry behind who I don't need to deal with, and then now come land some nice strikes on these forces. Try and turn the tide, save my Swordmasters in particular. Those are the more steadfast guys I need. And these guys still, round shield warriors are still in the fight. Berserkers still in the fight, 44 kills, but look, again, another great move from Achilles, who's going to disengage from the Berserkers. No need to get in on that fight, and then recommit with these infantry on these guys, and basically sacrifice a tribal warrior unit that's basically low anyways, and then commit, you know, try and take out some of my scout riders. I tried to relieve my guys, and now I have more forces coming in from the rear. I'm going to chase these horsemen. That should flatten them. You can see the infantry being left behind in that fight. Commit some Germanic scout riders on these forces, and then particularly over here with my noble riders, focus more on isolated units that I know can't form up into a brace position. So I'm laying a nice strike on these tribal warriors, tying these guys down with Germanic riders. Don't have that many kills on these guys, but they're just here to tie up his forces, allow more time for my berserkers to start raking the kills, and allow more time for these guys to land rear strikes. Over here I'm going to start reforming my sword masters. We're finally cleaning up the rest of the Romans. These guys are basically done. The Roman generals over there, we're actually going to try and pick him off. But on this front, actually, you can see my main corps has melted away. My cavalry has sort of already melted away. My scout riders are gone, caught up in the mix, and then these noble riders are going to start getting a lot of kills. But it wasn't enough to beat back the infantry. Because our opponents only brought 3 of these really cheap raiding horsemen, brought no skirmishers, and mainly focused on the infantry, I just got caught at that infantry grind, even though I had pretty good tactics. Achilles matched that with his own good tactics, nice rear strikes from cavalry, but just had more infantry than me to grind me out. These swordmasters are going to be particularly devastating in this position. I have their rear secure, so even though they're all these numbers, they can't do anything but, you know, land strikes through his own men, and that's going to be effectively doing nothing. So you can see he's going to start landing some flanking strikes. Thank God these guys are out of javelin ammo. But now we're going to pull some of our own skirmishers, these slingers, and other troops to get back and try and secure the rear of my lines so he can't land these types of flanking strikes and force him to pass through the front of Swordmasters, who can hold out for a long time. My other Noble Riders are going to be over here, 142 kills on them. I'm going to rest them on this front of the battlefield and also keep them kind of hidden in the brush. And I want to get them, basically save them, hope my opponent, there you go, they're hidden, hope my opponent forgets about them, and then I can land strikes on the rear of these blobs of infantry. He's going to stay a pretty good distance away, but like I said, he doesn't really have clean javelin shots. It's going to be mostly through his own men, mostly overshooting, so that's going to be to my advantage as long as I can secure the rear of my line. I wasn't able to do that too much because he was getting a flanking shot with these Oathsworn. These guys would have had javelins on my calves, so I had to pull back, which is going to obviously expose these Swordmasters to, yeah, that's going to be, they're going to meet their end. Not after taking, 145 men with them, so definitely a good move. Achilles doing a good job of getting his guys rested, not committing these guys, not wasting any more of their volleys than necessary. And now I'm going to fall back to the woods. We figured with all their javelins, all their numbers, we might as well fall back to the woods and try and hold them here. Have our slingers focus on, for example, the general. Take him out, that's very important. He's very tired. And then wait for the remainder of our forces who are now going to be coming to the fight. These raiding horsemen being brutally effective. They not only, did hammer and anvils on me, cleaned up most of my skirmishers, but are now also cleaning up some of the Germanic troops. And luckily we got counter strikes against them, but most of the infantry is going to actually be caught over here against these triple veteran Evocati. So we wish we could have had those guys more into the fight for now because we don't really have enough to mess with this. Here's what I'm going to do. In this position, I'm going to blunt the strike of these tribal warriors with my own noble riders. I really want to save my swordmasters. I know the swordmasters are the most important, especially with the general. So what I want to do is break this assault in the front, and I knew it was a trade. I know these noble riders are now going to get collapsed upon by all these forces, but that's fine. Take a look at what I want to do once these guys are collapsed on my cavalry. Have a cavalry strike in the rear. So I wanted to have a cavalry sandwich. These guys look like they don't. Achilles, I think, forgot about my guys, so that's why I committed to that fight. Not only to safeguard my swordmasters, break a charge on them, but also to draw in all this infantry into this position, land a strike on the rear, buy more time for our guys to come in, and we're actually going to be able to tackle the Legatus over there. And we're going to be knocking him out in the near future. Here comes the rest of the Suebi forces. We really need them to this fight, so we could have pulled out of this engagement. But I was kind of wary of disengaging, yielding the forest to our opponents. That's why I kept this position. If we gave our opponents the forest, then we wouldn't have been able to take advantage of our skirmisher advantage. And that's why I thought it was worth contesting the forest, and especially making the fight happen now while all these guys are tired. I didn't want them to have a chance to rest. So here we go. A nice clean strike on the rear of these tribal warriors. So again, picking at the extremities of these forces, picking at this blob, and I can't believe these riders are still alive. And look at this, some of the tribal warriors are already starting to waver. That's why I thought it was okay to commit to this fight. And you can see with these rear strikes from the cavalry, I mean, we have the potential to break these guys. You have like maybe one hex bearer. I don't know if we still have any, but if a hex bearer was still alive, pop that ability, boom, half this force is gone now. So unfortunately, those guys are wasted at this point, and we don't have our consolidated force. Berserkers would have been nice in that position. Spear Levy, this is going to be a problem for us. We don't have much of the meat of our force. All our sword masters are going to be committed elsewhere, and so all we have to guard against these forces flanking, yes, they're tired, but they're going against spear levies who are also tired, and they're going to break that, and that's going to be a huge problem for us because that's going to threaten the rear of our guys. Anyways, my cavalry disengaged from that fight, 168 kills, and I'm going to go after actually some of the exposed troops. I pulled these guys away from the main fight, which is good. I don't want to have too much pressure on my sword masters. So my cavalry doing a dual role of landing rear strikes, doing damage, and also relieving pressure on my swordmasters. However, their rear is going to be exposed relatively quickly. If these guys fall, then that's going to be an open avenue for the tribal warriors to close in on my swordmasters, who are otherwise, fresh. I can put them in, battle rhythm, head hunts, get their stats way up, and hold their own in, shield wall formation. I'm popping all sorts of abilities, and then I can do second wind. So I'm not worried about these guys holding out for a long time, which is good against the opponent's tired forces. We just hope that the rest of the Suebi troops can get here in time before, they could collapse on us. So we're going to commit swordmasters against these tribal warriors, clean up the levy freemen from the opponent, and then hopefully be able to turn the tides over on this front. And it is effectively keeping everything at the front of my swordmasters except for these couple tribal warriors. That's going to be problematic, especially Oh, they're even breaking through our Swordmasters, probably because that's the General's Oathsworn unit. No, that's not even the General, that's just the Oathsworn unit. So that's why we're triple targeting him with our skirmishers. And amazingly, our rear lines are actually going to start to break. Somehow we just didn't have enough numbers, and now you're going to start to see us lose out. And so my general is now basically the only heavy infantry we have left, except for this Swordmaster's unit left. So I figure, okay, this is very important to save this guy, so I'm going to charge in here, break through these Gallo-Thracian infantry, try and save the rest of our infantry, and these guys could then, you know, hopefully save this infantry unit, and then together we would turn on my general unit here, who's still holding out pretty strong, 58, 57, 56. He's kind of dropping, but he's getting 190 kills, and he's still pretty fresh. And so hopefully, you know, it's up to us to save my general. So, nice charge with the cav into the flanks of these tribal warriors, doing more damage. Also, these guys were diverted. They're going to try and charge here, so we get a nice counter strike with our own Swordmasters. So we are chewing our way through the enemy forces, really picking away at their numbers. Some Germanic slingers turning the tide, and then I'm going to land a nice rear strike on these infantry. Again, you know, they're going to come high five with my general, say, hey, what's up? We're here finally. So I am coming to the relief of my own unit. My general is going to start to waver, but he's going to actually start to rally as he sees more of these guys come back into the vicinity. So we did break some of these units, however they broke our Levy Freeman. Here comes Swordmaster, so we should be able to link up with my general, and I'm going to pivot these Noble Riders about, and I want to land a strike on this Tribal Warrior unit who's tired, who's low on numbers, and break them, and hopefully that'll help. Over in the back, basically all we're doing is running away and getting some shots with the Oathsworn. They're tired. We should be able to win that unit. Obviously, the advantage is having 3 of these guys against 2, so mathematically they can't chase us down. And here come my cav cycling around. Their retreat was able to pull these tribal warriors out of the fight. That's less pressure again on my general. And I'm going to now land a nice strike on these tribal warriors. However, look at my general. He's down to just 24 men, and boom, he breaks just a couple seconds before I landed that strike. I was hoping that would relieve pressure on my general. And with the loss of my general, then the rest of our forces are now going to start breaking and routing. So very, very devastating that I lost that guy in just the last couple seconds. It looked like we were maybe going to be able to save him, because you can see, I mean, some of his tribal warriors are starting to break. So you keep my general alive and his abilities, and you have my cavalry landing rear strikes. Maybe we could have turned that. But again, a very close battle. And like I said here, mathematically we should win this fight. So it's only a matter of time. We're going to fast forward this. Here's going to be the first Oathsworn unit broken. However, the numbers are going to start to turn against us, and that's why you start to see our Germanic slingers here wavering. And the opponent, Achilles, is going to be very, very smart about this. He's going to send 1 unit at a time, allow the rest of his units to wait, and just see how much he can get done with minimal amounts of units. So we're going to have to commit in melee into these guys and really break them. So it's going to work, but I guess he's trying to save his ammo against weak units where he can. These guys have apparently given up the chase, and now we're going to do a little bait and switch. So doing everything we can to make the most out of these slingers, but they're going to break. And so that's it for the end of the battle. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Very, very actually tactical 2v2. I've never had one quite like that. And I hope you guys enjoyed the explanation of the tactics and kind of the maneuvers and thinking, the moves and counter moves that happened. So yeah, that was definitely a very fun battle. Remember that Indie Pride does have a channel. And I think he's on the channel with I believe this is the same Achilles who's with Indie Pride. So yeah, they have their own channel, Milk and Cookies Total War. And then Kelt Thrive, fun playing with you if you're watching this video. Here you can see the builds and the kills. So I didn't actually get as many kills I would have liked. Indie Pride definitely getting a ton of kills, cleaning up the Romans. But Agony Achilles is definitely carrying that team. And you could see just the sheer number of infantry he brought that I had to chew through with my own forces. But overall, fun fight. Hope to see you guys in the next one. Peace out.